Are you sure you know who you're about to live with? I'm not talking about her name, her smile, or her sweet words. I'm talking about what really happens when you cross the invisible line between desire and cohabitation. Because the title of this video is not an exaggeration. Every man must know this before living with a woman. And if you don't, if you ignore it, you'll pay the price. Expensive, slow, and silent. Most men believe that living together is the natural extension of love. They think sharing a roof is a logical step, a symbol of maturity, a proof of commitment. But what no one tells them is that this step marks the beginning of a psychological transformation that can devour you without you realizing it. It's not about whether she's good or bad, whether she loves you or not. It's about what living together does to your perception of power, respect, and desire. Because when you start living with a woman, you don't just share a home, you share your mental space. She begins to see your routines, your weaknesses, your silences. You're no longer the man who arrives full of energy after work, nor the one who disappears into his projects. You're the man who leaves dishes in the sink, who hesitates, who takes too long to react. And at that moment, the magnetism that once surrounded you begins to shake. She no longer observes you. She analyzes you. She no longer admires you. She evaluates you. And that changes everything. There's nothing more dangerous for a man than losing respect in his own home. Because once that happens, attraction dies, harmony breaks, and leadership fades. Misunderstood cohabitation can turn you into a guest in your own life, a man who walks on eggshells to avoid arguments, a man who confuses peace with submission, a man who no longer leads but obeys just to avoid losing what little remains. But don't be afraid. There's still time. Because in this video, you're going to understand what no one ever explained to you. Why living together transforms a relationship. How to stay centered when everything seems to shift. And which principles you must preserve to avoid losing your respect, your attraction, and your essence. I warn you, what you're about to hear may make you uncomfortable, but it can also save you from years of emotional exhaustion and a loss that isn't always visible, but is felt more deeply each day. Stay until the end, because I'm going to show you exactly what every man must know before living with a woman, and what very few have the courage to tell you. And this is where what no one explained begins. Because living with a woman doesn't just change external dynamics, it changes something inside you. Without realizing it, you start negotiating with your identity. You stop acting from your center and start acting from the pursuit of balance with her. And that sounds noble, but there's a hidden trap. When you adapt too much of your nature to keep the peace, you stop being the man she chose. That's the paradox that slowly destroys many men. The very behavior you think preserves the relationship is the one that ends up killing it. At first, you give in on small things. A plan, an opinion, a decision you postpone to avoid an argument. You tell yourself it's maturity, that you're being understanding. But constant understanding turns into surrender, and continuous surrender into emotional submission. The worst part is you don't even notice it, because the process is slow, invisible, almost gentle. You adapt so much to her comfort that you stop making her uncomfortable. And that's the problem. A woman only respects a man who's capable of making her uncomfortable when it's necessary. Not because she wants conflict, but because conflict reveals character. When a man becomes predictable, the mystery dies. And when the mystery dies, the tension that sustained attraction breaks. She stops seeing you as the challenge that inspired her and starts seeing you as the functional partner who gives her stability. But stability without challenge isn't love. It's habit. And habit doesn't create respect. It creates apathy. That's where many men get lost, confusing the absence of arguments with success. They don't understand that a relationship without friction isn't peace. It's indifference disguised as harmony. Let me tell you something brutal. Women don't test your strength when they argue. They test it when they observe. They watch whether you uphold your values, whether you stay true to your purpose even when love becomes uncomfortable. They watch whether you remain the man who dreamed of something greater, or if you fade among chores, favors, and concessions. If they see you blur, they lose something they never fully recover: admiration. And when a woman stops admiring you, even if she still loves you, something inside her goes out. Respect isn't regained with flowers, it's regained with firmness. But let's go deeper, because this isn't just about setting boundaries. It's about preserving your vital energy. Living together, if not handled consciously, can drain you. Not because she wants it that way, but because the shared emotional system starts demanding constant attention. If you don't have space for yourself, moments to disappear and rebuild, you end up drained, empty, without fire. And when a man loses his fire, he stops inspiring. The curious thing is, many women feel that absence, but can't describe it. They just feel that you're not the same anymore. And they're right. You stopped being you because you forgot yourself. The biggest mistake men make when living with a woman is believing that love can replace purpose, that her presence is enough to keep the relationship alive. It isn't. A man without purpose is a man without direction. And when she senses that your life revolves around her, she stops revolving around you. The polarity reverses. You're no longer the axis. You're the satellite. And that breaks the natural dynamic of desire. What attracts a woman isn't your dependence, but your direction. What makes her fall in love isn't your total surrender, but your ability to remain yourself despite her. That's why there's something essential you must understand. Cohabitation cannot be symbiosis. It must be an alliance. And an alliance can only exist between two complete forces. If you fragment yourself to fit in, you stop being a force. You become a complement. And no complement inspires respect. If you want to keep the connection alive, don't aim to be one with her. Walk beside her, not within her. She doesn't need you to dissolve. She needs you to stand firm in your individuality. Many men believe that giving everything is the highest expression of love. But when you give everything, you're left with nothing to fuel desire. Because desire is born from distance, from mystery, from contrast. If she knows exactly how you'll react, if she can anticipate your words, if she controls your time, your space, your impulses, where's the fascination? What can a woman admire in a man who's given up his autonomy? Nothing. And that's the root of the disenchantment no one dares to name. I'll repeat it without romanticism. It's not about dominance. It's about holding your ground. Respect isn't imposed, it's radiated. But you only radiate it when you belong to yourself. When you don't need her approval to act, when your peace doesn't depend on her mood, when you don't seek her validation because you already know who you are. That's the energy she perceives as leadership. And leadership isn't authoritarianism, it's coherence. Every time you give up something essential Out of fear of losing her, you lose a part of yourself. And every part you give up, she stops admiring. The paradox is that when you become unbreakable, she doesn't pull away. She comes closer. Because masculine emotional stability isn't cold, it's magnetic. In a world where everything fluctuates, a woman seeks a fixed point. And if you're not that point, she'll look for another. So remember this: cohabitation can be the stage of your evolution or the theater of your defeat. It depends on how you approach it. If you enter unconsciously, you'll be consumed by routine. If you enter with purpose, you'll build lasting respect and desire. Because love alone doesn't sustain admiration, but respect. Respect changes everything. And if you stay until the end of this video, I'm going to show you how to keep it alive, even when everything around you tries to extinguish it. But wait, because there's something deeper that almost no one mentions. And it's here where many men fall without realizing it. It's not just about keeping your purpose or independence. It's about something darker and more subtle: the psychological price of being constantly observed. When you start living with a woman, you enter an invisible stage. Without realizing it, every gesture becomes information. Every silence, every pause, every sigh is analyzed, not out of malice, but by nature. She observes, deciphers, adjusts, and you, without noticing, start acting differently. You become more measured, more calculated, more careful with your words. You do it to avoid conflict, to maintain harmony. But here's what you ignore: the more you try not to fail, the less authentic you become. And that's where silent decay begins. The man stops acting from his essence and begins behaving as an optimized version of himself. A version that seeks approval, not respect. That seeks calm, not truth. That seeks affection, not admiration. And that destroys magnetism. Because respect doesn't come from being correct. It comes from being real. When she senses you are no longer yourself, but a domesticated version of what you were, something in her grows cold. Living with a woman demands presence, not compliance. And that's what separates men who grow through cohabitation from those who fade in it. The man who fades becomes predictable, docile, harmless. The one who grows, on the other hand, holds an energy that's hard to describe. He doesn't argue. He doesn't shout. But his very gaze commands clarity. His silence isn't submission. It's a boundary. His calm isn't fear. It's mastery. That kind of man doesn't ask for respect. He provokes it. The problem is that we live in an era where men are taught to soften themselves to be accepted. Be empathetic. Be sensitive. Be communicative. And yes, all of that has value, but without a core, it turns into weakness. Sensitivity without structure is exposed vulnerability. And when cohabitation demands firmness, but you only offer understanding, balance breaks. She won't say it outright, but she'll feel it. She'll feel she has to be the stable one, the emotional guide, the one who holds it all together. And when a woman is forced into that role, desire vanishes. That's why the real challenge isn't living with her. It's living with yourself within that coexistence, keeping your own world alive within the one you share. Having your rituals, your spaces, your silences. Because if you give them up, you dissolve. And when you dissolve, she stops seeing you, not as punishment, but as a natural reaction. Human nature doesn't respect what is given without resistance. And there's another aspect few touch on, but it's crucial: the energy of leadership in the home. I'm not talking about commanding. I'm talking about guiding, setting the tone, establishing the emotional rhythm of the space. If you don't do it, someone will. And when she does it, because you can't, the bond reconfigures. You're no longer the man who leads. You're the man who follows. And that inversion of energy slowly destroys attraction, not because she doesn't love you, but because feminine desire doesn't feed on control. It feeds on admiration. The man who knows how to lead at home doesn't need to impose. The way he speaks, moves, and decides sets the atmosphere. If there's chaos, he is calm. If there's doubt, he is direction. If there's tension, he is the rock. And that constancy creates a kind of respect that can't be bought or negotiated. It's felt, it's recognized, it's sought. But if you're the kind of man who reacts to every one of her emotions, who rises and falls according to her mood, who changes his plans based on her approval, then you're not leading, you're surviving. And a man who merely survives in his own home has already lost the right to call it his home. So I want you to engrave this in your mind. Living with a woman doesn't mean merging with her. It means coexisting from your strength. Your energy cannot depend on the emotional weather of the day. Your purpose cannot depend on her mood. Your peace cannot depend on her recognition. Because when it does, you're no longer a man. You're a reflection. And here's the truth that hurts but liberates. A woman doesn't need a perfect man. She needs a man with direction, a man with a compass, with limits, with his own fire. Someone unafraid of conflict because he knows conflict doesn't destroy, it defines. Someone who can say no without fear because he understands that no is the word that protects his essence. And when you are that man, something changes. She no longer measures you. She follows you. She no longer analyzes you. She watches you with desire. Because women, no matter how independent, deeply respect masculine energy that doesn't kneel before emotion. Not because it's cold, but because it's firm. So think carefully before you take that step. Living with a woman isn't just sharing physical space. It's sharing your soul under constant pressure. If you don't know who you are, you'll lose yourself. But if you do, that very fire can make living together the stage where you grow more than ever. Stay. Because what comes next is the part almost no one talks about. How to keep your essence when everything around you tries to shape it. And now, listen carefully, because this last part isn't for everyone. It's for the man who's made it this far without looking away. For the one who felt that knot in his chest, recognizing himself in what he heard. If you're still here, it's because you know something in you has been asleep. Something that once roared, and over time, you silenced it in the name of peace, love, stability. But tell me, what peace can exist when you stop being yourself? What love can flourish if one of you has to disappear for the other to be comfortable? What they never told you is that true coexistence isn't about adapting. It's about resisting without breaking. About staying yourself inside a space that tests you every day. Because living with a woman isn't an external challenge. It's an internal battle. Each day under the same roof confronts you with your ego, your fears, your limits. And only if you know them, only if you master them, can you stay centered. There's no quieter victory, nor more brutal defeat than that of the man who loses his essence in his own home. That's why, before living with a woman, make sure you've lived with yourself. Learn to be alone without feeling empty. Learn to say no without feeling guilty. Learn to guard your energy like your life depends on it, because it does. Don't let the desire for love become the excuse to lose your freedom. Don't become the man who trades respect for affection, direction for comfort, fire for calm. Calm without purpose is anesthesia, and you weren't born to live asleep. Understand this with brutal clarity. Cohabitation doesn't kill the man. It strips him bare. It shows who you are when the applause fades, when there are no witnesses, when everything depends on your self-mastery. If you know who you are, living together elevates you. If you don't, it devours you. That's simple. That's why the question isn't, do you want to live with a woman? The real question is, can you live with yourself without collapsing? Because if you can't hold yourself up, no one can hold you for you. And now, do me a favor. Don't close this video without thinking about this. If tomorrow she disappeared, would you still be the same man? Would you still walk with the same direction, the same purpose, the same strength? If the answer is no, you still have work to do. And that work starts today, not tomorrow, today. If you've made it this far, you're already one step ahead of most. You've heard what many men choose to ignore, and that makes you dangerous, because knowledge that can't be forgotten changes you forever. If this challenged you, and you want more unfiltered clarity on power, respect, and the psychology of relationships, this is Psyche Nomad. Subscribe and stay with us. We don't sell comfort here. We sharpen edges. So remember this before you close. Respect isn't requested. It's projected. Admiration isn't sought. It's provoked. And living together isn't the end of your freedom. It's the field where you prove whether you truly deserve it. See you in the next video, where I won't sugarcoat the words. I'll tell you what no one else dares to tell you. Until then, stay firm, stay free, and above all, stay awake. Because the world is full of sleeping men, and you are no longer one of them.